Hey everyone, welcome to Geeking Out, the podcast in which we dive into the career journeys of some of the amazing humans in tech and geek out on topics like software development, DevOps, observability, reliability, and everything in between. I'm your host, Adriana Villela, coming to you from Toronto, Canada. And geeking out with me today, I have Scott Hanselman. Welcome, Scott.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm living the dream.
Amazing. And where are you calling from today?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Awesome. I've had a number of people from Portland on the show.
We're a
Very
pretty
cool.
chill group of people, and there's a lot of geeks doing a lot of fun stuff in Portland.
Definitely. I've been to Portland once for Monitorama, and I loved the vibes. Lots of fun. And also, I love indoor rock climbing, so I checked out one of the local gyms as well when I was in Portland. So that was fun.
Was it the new one on Barnes, the big giant tall one on Barnes? Was it a
I
bouldering one, or was it on Macadam, the bouldering place on Macadam off of the river?
It was a bouldering one that was in it was near what looked like a newish condo complex. So it was in kind of a very bougie area.
Fancy. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of opportunities for rock climbing and bouldering in Portland.
Yeah. Very stoked to have gone. So yeah, awesome. Okay, well, I always like to start off with some icebreaker questions, but first, I want to give props to your T-shirt. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, so
I
absolutely.
feel like I like shirts that are obscure because there's no gray area. There's no I kind of know what that means. There's either you know exactly what's going on or you have no idea. And
Exactly.
I like that. It separates the wheat from the chaff very quickly.
Yeah.
It's a deep cut. I actually wore a similar shirt in my TED talk and when I talk about AI, because what's great about this particular episode of Star Trek from 1991 is that without context, it means nothing. And that's the whole point of the episode. And the same thing applies when thinking about language models. If there's no context, then it means nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Star Trek episode you're referring to is Darmok, correct?
Yep, Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra.
Yes. It's funny because I think I've watched Star Trek: The Next Generation end to end multiple times, but there have been certain episodes that I've watched a number of times, and this one, oddly enough, I think I've only watched maybe once or twice. But when I watched it most recently, I'm like, oh damn, it really stuck with me because you're absolutely right. Like the whole thing about context so important. I've many frustrations with regards to AI context based on some work I've been doing recently. So I feel the pain.
Yeah, it's I think it's season 5, episode 2. And a fun fact is that this guy here was actually Paul Winfield, who was the dad from Family Matters. Unrecognizable in his makeup there.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's start with the icebreaker questions. First question: are you a lefty or a righty?
Left-handed. I'm actually technically ambidextrous, so I write with my left.
Mm-hmm.
I bowl right. I bat left. I scissors right. I axe throw right. I golf left. So I think of myself as a lefty, but those are I cannot bowl left-handed. I cannot cut scissors left-handed. So yeah, I'm ambidextrous.
Do you mouse left or right-handed?
I literally have 2 mice, one on the right, one on the left, and I switch between them depending on where my hand is on the keyboard. I didn't know you were going to ask that question, and you notice that you have to get an actual. These are the vertical mice.
Oh yeah.
So this is a specific left-handed vertical mouse, and there's not a lot of those. So you have to go out of your way to get the left-handed vertical mouse.
That is so fun.
And I have mouse pads on both sides.
Oh, do you? Do you have a fun mouse pad? I can't remember the last time I had a mouse pad.
No, it's a gamer mouse pad with a very specific optical.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, I'm a lefty as well, but I do mouse with my right because that was what was presented to me.
Because we've been oppressed.
I have been oppressed, but here's something funny. So my dad's retired from tech, and he's the first person to introduce me to a mouse. And I was talking to him the other day, And he said he first learned how to use a mouse with his left hand, even though he's right-handed. And he said that that's because that's how the mouse was presented to him when he first used a mouse. I want to
Interesting.
say,
Was
like,
presented as a lefty.
yeah,
Well, I
isn't
mean, they
that
were
wild?
those mice were non-denominational. You could use them left or right.
Yeah, I think they were like single button, right? So it didn't really
Yep.
matter. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think the first time I saw a mouse was like, I want to say back in like 1988. So Windows, what, 3.1?
No.
Or
Windows
was it?
3.1 was 91.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So then even that's before Windows. DOS days.
We'll see. Maybe people will call me out on that. No, Windows 3.1 was April of 92.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I used a mouse,
Wow.
a single button mouse on an Apple II computer in the late 80s, though. Back when
Yeah.
mice were on serial ports.
Oh, yes. I do remember.
And actually,
I do remember that.
I've got over here. This is an old, that's a joystick. I don't know if you remember that joystick from the Commodore 64.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was left-handed. I've got this mouse, which is like an early mouse, but
Yeah.
this is right in the middle of the 90s when the Rolly came.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
wanted to use it, so I
Real
made
port.
this is 3D printed. So this is PS2 to serial port adapter. So that works on a Commodore 64 or a. So that's like pre-USB mouse.
I remember the PS2 ports, and I thought, well, this is the lap of luxury. It's so
Yeah, indeed.
compact.
But
And
that's
then
actually this has got it's a 3D printed case that goes from PS2 to RS-232 serial.
that's so cool. Brings back memories.
People
Okay,
of a certain age.
that's right. People of a certain age, for sure.
People of a certain age.
Okay, next question. Do you prefer iPhone or Android?
I know that it's not a good thing to like iPhone, but I very much like my iPhone. It's delightful. I like to I tease my my green bubble friends, and there's a I forgot the name of the comedian, but there's this lovely Canadian comedian. She is a black hijabi. She's Muslim. She has a headscarf, and she comes out and she says, "I'm a black woman. I'm a Muslim. I'm a hijab, hijabi, and I'm an Android user, and that is the least protected. Like you guys are so mean to us, the Android people. She's just like, I need more protection against the blue bubble people." But fortunately, of course, with RCS, the new Rich Communication Services, at least we get red receipts and thumbs up because nobody wants to be the green person in the group chat who's sending out, Adriana has thumbs up your thing. Like nobody wants that text.
No, you don't.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I just upgraded to iOS 26 last night. The whole weird, juicy liquid
Ooh.
glass
I
thing.
haven't tried that yet because I'm getting my new iPhone tomorrow.
It's weird. It's super weird.
Ah,
It's just
yeah.
I don't know. It's liquid. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit excessive. I do have a
Okay.
bunch of Android stuff, but I think it's a little weird.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to play around with it. I have a friend who upgraded recently. He's like, "It's so cool." I'm like, "I'm waiting till my phone arrives."
Yeah. What I
But
want, I mean, this is the thing. Android's got innovation and
yeah,
iPhone's got like reliability. I
true.
want that Z Fold Android. I feel like what we need, and I'll take my case off. I want a super thin iPhone. This is my 16 Pro
Yeah.
that unfolds into an iPad.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah,
then I want to plug a USB-C, like one USB-C into
yeah.
it and have a keyboard and a mouse and have it be a Mac.
That would be awesome. Apple
That would
people.
be a product. That would be a product right there.
You know what I miss is my flip phone.
I've got a flip phone here somewhere.
I had what was it it was like my first flip phone was like this color LCD Sanyo. The battery life was absolute shit. I was lucky if it lasted like 5 hours and I
Mm.
had to carry a spare battery to survive the day, but I loved it. and my subsequent, flip phones, I adored them. I miss, having to like, slamming slamming it shut to end a call.
My 17-year-old, I had actually a viral TikTok because my 17-year-old and his buddies decided that they should all get flip phones because TikTok was rotting their brains.
Mhm.
So he went online and he found a $54 Amazon flip phone. And the trick was, what's the best way to move your SIM back and forth? So he still has a physical SIM because
Oh, yeah,
he has
yeah,
an old iPhone. So we
yeah.
got a $54 flip phone. It's got Bluetooth, it's got MP3s, and it's got Google Maps.
Oh,
So he's
wow.
like, as long as I got Google Maps,
Yeah,
but it's a flip phone. And so he would, when he's feeling like I need to unplug, he pulls
yeah.
his SIM out of his iPhone, puts it in the flip phone.
I love that. And so is like a newer model flip phone that is being manufactured?
Yeah, it's called an Alcatel,
Oh,
Alcatel, Alcatel.
cool.
It's a flip phone. It works great. We put a bunch of MP3s on it that I had from back in the day,
Yeah.
and went nuts. Had fun. He enjoys it. So yeah, we and the battery life on that one is like 2 weeks. Thing that lasts forever.
Wow. Damn.
But then what he did, now that he's got the new iPhone, is he's changed his icons to be black and white
Yeah.
and like really chilled it out, and then he's like deleted a bunch of icons. So I'm seeing people make calm phones,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
calming their phones. So he's gone and done that, and he like tinted everything and went like made it like black and white like
Oh,
that.
wow. I've
So
heard that as a technique for it being less distracting,
yeah, trying to chill
like
out.
you said, calming. Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's great. I think it's great that he's thinking about that stuff. There's another one. This is clear. You can't really see, but like you can make them entirely clear.
Yeah.
So finally, and this is the
Right.
thing, right? People on the Android, your Android viewers will be like, "Welcome to 10 years ago, bro." It's probably true.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great that he's, already thinking about these things at this age,
I
and
think
it
so. But
yeah,
people
because
were like being haters online. They're like, "Things that didn't happen for 200, Alex." I'm like, literally happened. Like he's right there. Like you could talk to him.
yeah,
But people are like, no teenager would turn off their phone consciously. I'm like, no, he just was like, yeah, this is not fun anymore. I want to try
yeah,
something else.
yeah, yeah. Well, I've even, like, in the evenings, I just leave my phone, like, as far away from me as possible, like, so that I'm more present with my family, and even last week, we went out to dinner, and I forgot my phone at home, and I was like, "Hey, that's fine," and it was so
I can't.
freeing.
I cannot do that. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I
Oh,
have a pancreas that
mhm.
runs on my phone. It's an open source artificial pancreas. So you can't really see. Yeah, there's no way to show you
Yeah,
this,
unfortunately.
but basically, I have a system on my phone. Actually, let me try something. I will switch over to here. Is it gonna let me see it?
It
No.
looks black. Oh, there we go. Yep. Oh, yeah, I see it. Yep, yep, yep.
So got my blood sugar
That's
and
very
my
cool.
insulin. So if I forget my phone, I will be very sad.
Yeah. No, yeah, in that case, you definitely need to bring that with you.
Oh, my 3D print just finished. Hang on.
Ooh, fun.
I'm playing
What have
Hollow
you
Knight. Have you played Hollow Knight?
No.
This is the base. I'm making a Hollow Knight figurine.
Oh,
So
cool.
this is the base that she's going to sit on. So this is like rock or whatever, like her little base, and then her little weapon, and then
Awesome.
her skirt
All
is
3D
here.
printed.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's really, speaking of Star Trek, you know, Picard always gets to go tea Earl Grey hot, and then just tea appears.
Yeah,
Uh, it feels like that with 3D printing now. We've got it so dialed in that you just say, "Yeah, I want this," and it pops out, makes stuff. I got like half this stuff is 3D printed.
that's awesome. How much does a 3D printer go for these days? Because I'm seriously, like, wanting to get one now.
It is It is shockingly reasonable. Let me actually share my screen, and I'll give you a little preview because I'll run this printer while we're going.
Cool.
So I'm here
Yeah.
in the tool, and I'm searching for the game is called Silk Song, and I'm printing out this lady here.
Oh, wow.
She's a little bug.
Oh, that's so cute.
Okay, so I've printed the base. Oh shoot! Oh, my base came out white. I thought it was going to be gray. I'll have to figure that. I might have to redo that. So I need to do her head now.
Mm-hmm.
So I can do it in one color, but you see, if you look right here, you can do it like this, but that's not very fun. Like that doesn't look nice and it's
Yeah.
cool. It's not cool. So this person here has broken it up. Oh, for crying out loud. 3 images, what? What am I supposed to do? I don't know why they're asking if I'm a human. There we go.
Oh, nice.
So there's the base.
Yeah.
And there's her head.
Yeah.
And there's the skirt. So I'll print out her head. You can get a 3D printer now for $2.99, maybe $3.99.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah, it's
That's
not
great.
like a whole $1,000 thing anymore. So you had asked whether I liked Android or iPhone. I would say that the Bamboo Lab printers are basically the iPhones of printing.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of the bamboo printers.
So if you get the mini, it's
Yeah.
$249.
Oh, wow.
Now, if you want multiple colors, it's more.
Yeah.
And if you're serious, I got the middle of the road one, and it was $549.
Right.
But I would argue that if you're going to buy a PlayStation, you're going to spend $500. Why not, buy something that can make stuff?
Yeah, true.
So here I picked these are the 4 colors that I have loaded. I thought my base was going to be gray. I'm looking at this base.
It does not look
A
great.
little disappointed. And then we'll hit send. It's literally that easy.
Yeah.
It's sending it over to the printer, and then we're going to hit on device here.
Yeah.
And there's a camera inside that comes with the device. And we should be able to see the camera. So now it's downloading the print. I can hear it starting. It's going to take 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
386 layers.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's gonna print, and that'll do her head, and then I'll put them all together when I'm done.
Cool.
And I'll probably redo that piece there to make sure that it looks nice. This is geeking out, right? Is
Oh
that
yeah,
okay?
we are definitely geeking out on all the things. I love it.
Geeking out? Is that allowed?
Yeah, totally. I love it. Okay, the next one I'm going to ask you, maybe controversial because of where you work. Mac, Linux, or Windows?
I'm non-denominational.
Oh,
so I've got a stack of laptops over here, a couple of Macs. The problem is I do like Windows, and that's not because I work at Microsoft. It's just I've used Windows since 1992. I like it. It makes sense to me. I've used Mac. I've got a Mac that I have to use to build my Pancreas app. I find Xcode to be very frustrating. I find Mac to be not very hotkey friendly. I really, really, really dislike the Finder on Mac. Finding a file, without using the command line, I would challenge a Mac user to open 2 windows to 2 different folders and copy a file from one side to the other without a mouse.
Yes. I agree with you on that. That is one thing. I knew all my Windows hotkeys.
Mac is missing the hotkey boat.
Yeah, I do agree. It's definitely a more it encourages more mouse use.
Yeah.
Compared to Windows. Oh, look at that.
It's the little skirt.
That's so cute.
So then she'll sit on this and her little skirt, and then we'll have her head printed out soon.
Oh, that's great.
And then I'll decide if I want to change the color of this. Geeking out.
I love it. Okay, next question. Do you have a favorite programming language?
I like C sharp. That's kind of the one that my brain goes to the
Yeah.
most. But any curly brace related language is usually fine. But I feel like as a person of a certain age, I don't really see the difference as much anymore.
Yeah.
Like for loops are for loops, maps and arrays and data structures. So I look at it like, Portuguese, Italian, and Spanish. They're just kind of all close
Very
enough.
similar. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
I don't speak Portuguese, but I've got Chipotle level Spanish. So when I hear Portuguese and I'm like, I got 40% of that, I feel like that. So when I go pop over to like C++ or TypeScript, I'm like, yeah, I got I got most of that. I got it.
Yeah, what was your first programming language?
Technically depends on what you would call a programming language. First would be Logo,
Ooh.
which was the little turtle that you would use when you were like 10.
Yep. Yep.
And you would, go left, go 5 forward, turn left, 40 degrees kind of thing.
Yep. Yep.
Then I would say Basic on a Trash 80, on a Radio Shack TRS 80. But I would say my first like one for money, I would say was C. And then I wrote an app that was a combination of Visual Basic, had C DLLs, dynamic link libraries,
Yep.
and then it called into a TurboVision, which was Object Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a time when there were just lots of languages. You didn't really
I
think about.
remember. It brings back memories. My first language was Basic as well. I spent a lot of
Yeah,
time in QBasic, and I fondly remember the gorilla game with the exploding banana,
Gorilla Baz.
gorilla
Yeah.
and Nibbles. I wasted a lot of
I've
time
got
playing
somewhere
Nibbles.
around here. I've got one of my first applications that I ever wrote that was in a box. We actually had boxes when we shipped software, and it was called Foolproof Software. I'd have to dig it out, but basically it was a application that prevented kids in the library from taking a disk in and booting off of their disk and breaking into the library computer.
Oh, yeah, because you could.
Oh yeah, because like they would lock the library computer down, so then the
Yeah.
geeks would carry around a floppy disk like this.
Oh my god, you still have one. That's amazing. That's great. I think I got rid of all my floppies. I
Oh
still
yeah,
turned in homework in the 3 and a
the hard
half.
disk, the
Yeah, the
floppy,
hard yeah, the
three and a
small
half,
yeah, the 3 and a half.
with the floppies inside the plastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. The hard floppy. Yeah,
yeah, three and a half, and this is a five and a
yeah,
quarter.
yeah.
Yeah,
I never did the 8. That was before my time.
I do a bunch of software archivalness. Basically, like I found a bunch of disks in the garage, and you can't read like Commodore disks and Apple disks on a PC anymore, and most PCs don't even have a place to plug it in. And there's no such thing on these 5 and a quarters. There's no USB version of that.
Yeah, yeah.
There is a USB version of the little ones. You can just
No.
buy one.
What?
Yeah, you can buy like, so if you've got like your college papers and stuff, and you want to get them off the computer, you can buy
Oh
like
my
I went to
god.
Goodwill and found a $10 floppy disk USB.
Oh my
But
god.
on 5 and a quarter, it's a lot harder. And there's open source projects to help you get the data off of those machines.
Wow, that is hardcore. That is true geeking out.
Mm. Are we doing okay? I feel like we're only through the intro though.
We're good.
Well,
We're
I
good.
keep it's a podcast, but I keep standing up and running away, and then
It's gonna compel people to see the YouTube version.
if you are listening to this audio, you need to go and watch
You
the
really
YouTube
do
version.
have to watch
There's a
the
lot going
YouTube
on in the
version.
background here,
Yeah,
people.
if only for the T-shirt.
And
And
well,
for
and
the
the
3D
3D
printed
printed
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next question. Do you prefer dev or ops?
Dev or ops? I do not think about them as being separate.
I love that.
I think when people love to call themselves full stack engineers, but unless you like carried the pager, and you actually like keep a machine alive in the cloud. Like I've had a blog since 2002, and I've been online. I've had websites online since the 90s. 30 years of keeping a website online changes your relationship to the code. And I've been doing continuous integration since before it was called that, right? We just called them
Yeah.
build servers. So the idea of checking code in and having it automatically get deployed is not a new one for me. So I think the line between ops and dev is blurred.
I agree, and I have a question for you along those lines. Do you think that a developer that's working on a containerized application should know how to containerize their application? Because I was surprised by how many people don't.
So people who know me and have seen me online probably are tired of they're probably tired of the 5 or 6 things that they keep hearing me say. So you just described what people who know me know as the classic, do you teach your kid how to drive stick shift problem,
So true.
right? You're going to should people who know how to take an Uber know how to change a tire? One should argue that all able-bodied people who can change a tire should change one at least once.
Mhm.
Like, this is why we send kids to camp. Like, do you need to know how to start a fire and cook a can of beans? No. Does it make you a better person to have lit a fire once in the woods and made a can of beans once and cooked it? Yes. So yeah, you should containerize an app once or twice so that you know what ops is doing. This gets to the whole point of what full stack means. Do it once, then go, huh? So that's what ops does.
Yeah, you need that appreciation, right? And we are forcing ops people to code
Well, yeah,
effectively,
and
right?
I don't like making a caste system. Like, we
Yep.
used to have software testers, and now
Yep.
it's more kind of like the life cycle. But like,
Yeah.
we would treat the software testers poorly.
Yeah.
Not we, me, but like they were considered a second class, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Everyone should familiarize themselves with everything. So like, if you think about being a chef, if you ever saw like The Bear on Hulu, there's sous chefs and there's preparing, the sous chef do the preparation, then there's the head chef and there's line chefs, but they move from station to station. The
Yeah.
whole point of doing that is to have a journeyman program, an apprenticeship where you learn all of the jobs to make a good meal.
Yeah, and I feel like that is missing a lot in tech. And I agree with you also on your comment about the caste system. I actually started off my first job out of school, the first role that I was given. I wanted to actually start off doing dev, but I was put into a testing role, and my God, were we treated badly. And I, not gonna lie, I was frustrated in that role, but I have such an appreciation, and I'm, looking back, I'm so grateful for having had that experience, because it puts things into a very different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't think, like, how can you understand what someone does if you haven't been in their shoes?
100%. Being a full stack engineer means developing empathy
Yeah,
for those that have your job.
yeah, definitely love that. Okay, next question: JSON or YAML?
Not YAML.
Not YAML.
The answer is anything but YAML.
So are you okay with TOML then?
Anything in the world but YAML. YAML is a dumpster fire. YAML is crap.
Oh, and you
Quote
mentioned
me.
you like the curly braces, so
YAML, I let me go so far as to say I find personally significant white space to be generally problematic.
mhm.
I know my Pythonistas will not appreciate that, but just the idea that getting a tab wrong or a couple of spaces wrong means that that's not going to compile, that's insane. Like, if you go and looked at, if you went, and I have to use YAML, of course, for my CI/CD pipeline. So if you go
Mhm.
look at my GitHub Actions or my Azure DevOps stuff, you'll see that there's like trying again, moving that, like just like over and over again, trying to get it to work. And everyone will say, yeah, use a linter. I was doing YAML before we had like really good linters. So like,
Yeah,
just moving it around is challenging.
I agree. Okay, we're almost done. Next question: spaces or tabs?
I don't think it matters. And I know that there's a whole argument on Reddit about how spaces versus tabs matter to the visually impaired.
Mhm.
I have not spoken to a visually impaired person who agreed with that because their screen reader chooses how to present significant white space.
Ah,
I would probably argue tabs is correct technically. No one has changed. We used to set our tab stops but no one even knows what a tab stop is anymore. So tabs is the correct answer, but it doesn't matter is probably also appropriate.
Fair enough. Okay. Two more questions. Do you prefer to consume content through video or text?
It depends on the content, right? Like I've got a stack of books right here
Mm-hmm.
with a cookie on top. So like I'm consuming these books
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I finish this cookie. Um, I don't like. I like that I get to choose the speed of the book. Like if you think about a video, there's people who like go online and then change their video to 1.5x or 2x, and they think that
Yeah.
they can like consume it at that speed. My wife does audiobooks at 1.2. What I like about reading is that it's pull versus push.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can change the speed depending on how fast or deeply I want to read. Like there's no way to like squint and think and make the YouTube slow down so you can absorb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I prefer a medium by which I can pull. So I would say my happy medium, and why I do it the way I do it on my YouTube, is small 15-minute bite-sized videos. I know there's a rise right now of these like 2 hour long watch a dude yap and code. Not a fan. I just don't like that. I don't know why, but it doesn't work for me. But long as there's an option for everyone.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I much prefer reading. My daughter loves watching YouTube. She learns the most obscure things on YouTube.
I do want to say though, I do appreciate a well organized, well edited YouTube that like
Oh
you
yeah,
know
for
a
sure.
Hank Green or like like whatever drunk history or what
Yeah,
people
yeah.
putting work into explaining a concept. That's different than just someone yapping,
Oh
which
no,
I'm not a fan of.
I totally agree. I mean, if it's boring, like forget it. The most I'll do, I will deal with Instagram Shorts. Sorry, Instagram Reels. Sorry, but the captions have to be on. I have the sound off and I have the captions on, and I much prefer that.
I just popped up my screen. Let's see how our print is doing.
Oh, look at that. Which one are we printing again? Is this
This
the
is the
head?
head.
The head. Cool.
So let's go and see how that's doing. So that was not that one. That was her head is this one here.
Nice.
So you can see that we are roughly 37%, not roughly, exactly 37% of the way there.
Nice.
So pretty cool. Should be
Okay,
done in 28 minutes.
okay, final question. What's your superpower?
Napping? I think my superpower is probably analogies.
Mhm.
Explaining technology to non-technical people, I think I'm pretty decent at.
And I think this is also a great segue into your TED Talk, because, yeah, for those who haven't watched Scott's TED Talk, I'm going to include a link in the show notes because
And I
it's
just put it on hanselman.com. So you can just go to mylastname.com. It's right there now.
amazing. Yeah, it was such a great and engaging talk. And as we were
Thank
chatting
you.
before the before starting the recording, I was listening to it just before going on vacation, and so many things that you said resonated with me, about like, putting in boundaries, for example. I believe I seem to remember you also told the story of your son's
Yeah, I did mention my son getting a flip
to
phone.
the flip phone. Yeah, on the
That had
yeah.
happened like 2 weeks before the TED Talk. So that's
Oh
why it was
wow.
top of mind.
So I gotta ask. So how did you, first, how did you get asked to do the TED Talk, and second, what inspired you to come up with the topic of your talk?
It's the whole TED thing is a complicated organization. Like there's the big nonprofit and there's like TED All Up, which is out of like Vancouver, Canada or something.
Hmm.
And so there's like TED Global, and then there are these like franchises. So you could have like TED Fort Wayne, Indiana, or TED such and such a college, and those are independently run, what are called TEDx
Right.
events. And they're all of different sizes, but they are run by and okayed by the TED people. So you have to like have a relationship with TED. It's kind of like you you get a taxi medallion in order to drive a taxi. You can't just, you and I couldn't put one on. We'd have to work it out with the TED people.
So the
And
franchise
so
sort of thing.
kind of a franchise, a nonprofit franchise.
Right, right.
And then, but the one in Portland where I am is, they say, top 3, top 4 TED event. It's quite large. It was like 4,500 people. So it wasn't like a couple of kids at a community college. And they had asked me a couple of times over the years, but I kind of didn't want to take up space, and it just felt kind of weird and pretentious to me to do a TED Talk, because it feels like people who do TED Talks are trying to sell me a book or something. I didn't have a book, and I don't have anything. I don't care. But they were very persistent and they were very nice. And my buddy Stephen Green was like, I think, we would always get together and have lunch and then say, oh, I wish we had recorded this. And he's like, we should talk about these things. You should do this TED Talk. So Stephen Green really pushed me from Vanport Studios to do this. So I said, all right, fine, I'll do it, but I want to do it like kind of my way. And then you go through this really awkward 6 to 9 month process. The haters online and the haters in the comments are like, oh, let anyone do a TED Talk now, like, thanks, haters. This was formal. Like, I was assigned a speaker coach.
Oh, wow.
And Kathy Armias was my speaker coach. She like wrote the book, How to Give a Great TED Talk. We met like twice a week for like 6 months. And like, I think I did the talk probably 30 times, and I proposed different versions of the talk 5 or 6 times. And the first versions, they hated it. This talk, the one guy was like, this is barely a talk. Like, go back. So like, they have a plan.
Yeah.
And they build an arc across, in this case, 11 or 12 talks, and they want you to fit into a slot. And I don't like reading from a script. I don't like writing a script. Most of my talks are just vibes.
Yeah.
This is not that. This is like Toastmasters. It's like, I would even say it's a one-man show or one-person show. This is a stand-up comedy with PowerPoint.
Yeah.
It was very formal. It was a stage show. There was showmanship.
Well, for what it's worth, it came off as very casual.
Did it really?
I mean that in like a very, like, I mean that in the best way possible. Like, I didn't get like any stuffy formal vibe from it. So yeah. So
that's very kind. Thank you for that. Yeah. I didn't want it to not be me. And then they wanted, it's got to be topical. So they want AI.
Yeah.
But also, as I mentioned before, I'm a person of a certain age. So like, I think computer science history is not taught enough. So as I work on the cloud, I still have old computers behind me and, arcades from Tron and stuff like that. So like, this is not just like old man has nostalgia. This is old man tries to remember why we did this in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is the point of the TED Talk. Like, why did we even do this?
Yeah.
It feels like we're doing tech to make billionaires more billionaire. That's not why I got into tech. I'm glad you liked it.
Oh no, it was really great. And there are so many different aspects. Like, I love also the story of like, how there were so many sacrifices made by your family to.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a similar story. Like, we have no idea how much our parents did for us to make us have these jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we got our first computer. And I was barely allowed to touch it because those things are so expensive.
You could break it.
You could.
It's like $2,000. You could totally break it.
Do you remember like having to turn it on in a certain order? Otherwise you would short things and you had to like ground yourself before.
They put the fear in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad had like a static thing where it's like when you walk over, you have to touch the static thing first before you touch the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. We lived in fear of those things. 100%.
We did. Even like, we were talking about the floppy disk. The first time that I saw a floppy disk, I remember it was in school and teacher pulled it out. And the first thing I wanted to do was touch it. And as I'm like getting ready to touch the magnetic part, he's like, don't touch it.
People do not understand. Like, people are like putting USB keys in their mouth and like chewing on them. The first time the teacher would stand in front of the audience and in front of the kids and go, all right, do not touch that.
Yep.
You can touch this, but you have to only put your fingers in a certain way. No matter what you do, never touch this. And we were just like so gentle and
That's
genteel and just like
right.
push it in
So
real
scared,
slow.
so
And then you
scared.
ever have it when the floppy got caught inside? And you're like, oh my God, it's stuck. I can't get it out.
Yeah, moments of terror.
And like we had like perfect little envelopes and we
Oh
treated
yeah,
him
that's
carefully.
right. And then when we got to the smaller ones, the diskettes, it's like, oh, now we have hard cases for them. And you can slide that little metal
Yeah.
thing that protected the magnetic
Yeah. And then look
phone.
at it and like, I can touch that if I wanted to.
You could move it back and forth. And there was the I also remember the tab on those to prevent like overwriting your data.
Yeah, this part here.
Yeah,
Now,
that's right.
do you remember cutting another tab to make it double-sided? Did you ever do that?
No, I didn't even know you could do it on the 5.5. I knew no, it's sorry, 5.25. I knew
Yeah,
that.
you couldn't flip over the plastic ones,
Mhm.
but this one here it says DSDD,
Uh-huh.
double-sided, double density.
Oh, yeah. I
So
do.
this notch here is the
Yeah.
right notch. If you took a hole punch,
Uh-huh.
you could hole punch the other side and then flip it over, and you get
Oh.
free side two.
The original hacks.
That's how we saved money because I don't know if you got floppy money, but I didn't have floppy money.
No, definitely not. I mean, I remember like getting a computer game was even like a saga when I was growing up because like you'd go to the computer store and you mentioned like software came in boxes and there was something magical about like seeing it was almost like going to a bookstore. And I
Oh,
remember my dad's like, if I'm going to buy you a game, it had better be educational.
I got this. Speaking of software in boxes, this is a thing called ExoDOS.
Oh,
EXO DOS. And what this is it's this wonderful collection of all the DOS games from when we were kids.
no. Oh, that's
You know,
amazing.
like Sierra and all those games. And it is presented to you and given as a, see how it looks like a floppy?
Yeah.
It's actually a hard drive.
Oh, that's
So
cute.
it's a hard drive with a picture of a floppy on it, and then
That
you
is
plug it
cool.
in, and then it has all the DOS games from when you were a kid.
Wow.
And we would go to like PC Micro Center or Radio Shack and buy a game in a box and actually read the instructions. And you remember sometimes you'd have to go and like they'd say, "Give us the third word on page 14," and that was to keep you from stealing the game because if you stole the game and you didn't have the instructions, you wouldn't
Right.
know the third word on page 14, which was their way of keeping you honest.
Hardcore.
So
See,
good.
the things that kids these days just don't appreciate.
These kids these days,
These kids
they,
these
yeah,
days
they
with
don't
their
care.
apps on their phones. Yeah, I'm in awe over the fact that my iPhone has more compute power than my 386 SX from 19 whatever 1989
And
1990.
not just more, thousands, hundreds of thousands of times more. And we're
Yeah,
looking at it too, and the whole point is now to argue with people on the internet. That's what we're doing all that power for, which is another theme of the TED Talk is like, what are we doing, man?
it's true. Even like I've had this conversation with so many folks as well, like when it comes to contributing to open source and finding that right open source community and one where you feel respected and that people aren't going to yell at you like when you post a question on Stack Overflow and it's like, I just want to ask a question and this dude is ripping into me for
Yeah,
existing because I'm confused.
yeah, for existing.
Before we wrap it up, do you have any parting words of wisdom?
Trying to think about like what does Bill and Ted say at the end of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Stay awesome, dude. I don't know. Sorry, I wish I knew my end. I should have known my Bill and Ted. I ruined that exit. Be excellent to each other. That was the one. It took me a second to come back.
There
I
we
had to
go.
like get my inner Keanu, man.
Well, I really appreciate it, Scott. Thank you so much for geeking out with me today. This was a treat. It was such a great trip down memory lane. And y'all don't forget to subscribe and be sure to check the show notes for additional resources and to connect with us and our guests on social media. Until next time,
Peace out and geek out.
Geeking Out is hosted and produced by me, Adriana Vilela. I also compose and perform the theme music on my trusty clarinet. Geeking Out is also produced by my daughter, Hannah Maxwell, who incidentally designed all of the cool graphics. Be sure to follow us on all the socials by going to bento.me/geekingout.